Karibu kufinya button ndio tufunguke.
Nice sana.
Sasa tuongea jioni, si ndio?
As groundwork in most community organizations are NGOs, it's basically being informed by the South African Constitution. This section 24.
Everyone has the right to an environment that is not harmful to their health or well-being, and B, to have the environment protected for the benefit of present and future generations through reasonable legislative and other measures that Roman 1, prevent pollution and ecological degradation, Roman 2, promote conservation, and Roman 3, secure ecologically sustainable development and use of natural resources while promoting justifiable economic and social development.
So this is what informs our work. So even if you go to the groundwork website, you will see our goal is exactly this. So that's what we want to achieve as groundwork. This is what also the county wants to achieve. So most NGOs will every now and then code from this context. But it's not only like we're using this only. So we've got other clauses within the Bill of Rights, which talks about access to land, access to water, respect for cultural practices, and religion. So most of our work is based on the Bill of Rights. So anything that we think is in violation of those rights, then we will raise it. So we might be reading one section right now, but then when we talk to some people, people will talk about how their health has been impacted, how they don't have access to water, or their water has been contaminated. It's only because it's been informed by the Constitution. Now this is the supreme document of the country. No law can be in conflict with the Constitution. Any law, if it's in conflict with the Constitution, normally I think the latest trend now is just to take the government to court and say this is in conflict with the Constitution. So anything you see, or all the relevant policies we talk about, whether we talk about the Water Act or the National Environmental Management Act. It's, those acts were enacted to give effect to the Bill of Rights. So we have the Bill of Rights, but it's silent. It doesn't have teeth to mouth. So they had to put in the Environmental Management Act, and then with it, they will come what we call Sector Environmental Management Act, like the National Water Act, Air Quality Act, Land Distribution. Those are the Sector Environmental Management Acts. So in terms of how groundwork works, we don't do all the mobilizations. Our focus is on how we support community-based organizations. So I would go to a community, maybe there was a protest or they have issues, and then I would understand what are their issues. How do I work with the community such that they give more meaning to their issues, they make the issues more relevant to the present day situation. So normally what we get is people talk a lot about social issues like access to water. So I'm talking about the protests that we normally see in South Africa. It's access to water, they talk about accountability, they talk about access to electricity or affordable electricity, and they talk about jobs. Solely because most of these industries around do not address the household needs. So people still face food insecurity, for instance, because food is expensive. People might be connected to the grid, but because electricity is expensive, they cannot afford that. I think we will visit some of the areas where there's a power station nearby, and then on the other side, the people living there, but most of them don't have access to electricity. So these are the social ills that come with the current system. So whatever social issues we look at, we're not looking at it from a social context. We also think about the economics of development in the current context. Is this current system addressing the needs of the people, and are we growing local economies, or are we just benefiting a few individuals? So this is the dynamic we encourage people to begin to question, so that they could see whether the economic model that we're talking about today is worth keeping, or we need to change the model. So I think on Friday you will hear a lot of people talking about unbundling, dividing ESCOM into 3 different units between generation, transmission, and distribution, and how the process is going to be financed. But we'll also hear people talking about a just transition. I think it's been the buzzword recently all over the world, and people are talking about the just transition because everyone is focusing on reducing our carbon footprint or greenhouse gas footprint, so that we could move to cleaner energy systems. So the whole issue around the development of another coal plant still gives us the impression that we're increasing our greenhouse gas emissions rather than reducing them. So that's one of the things you have to bear in mind. That's why I was saying yesterday, any form of coal combustion, whether it's your clean myth technology, it doesn't work. I think this is it, but any form, but we always read this later. But any form of coal combustion, so it also looks into how that contributes to climate change, but also how these technologies are still, in a sense, water intensive. So we have the 2 biggest power stations that were built recently, it's Medupi and Musele. The so-called clean coal technology, which is how we reduce the sulfur out of the emissions, or how we try at least to eliminate sulfur. it's not possible to eliminate completely, but at least reduce the most appropriate way. That technology they're talking about is really water intensive. Now, at least Kusile has managed to secure water, but at the expense of the people, because they had at least close off one of the dams in order to supply only ESCOM power stations with water. Then in the Panama, it's a different game, because that area is very dry, it's based in the hole. They don't have water. But the government is trying to spend billions to develop water augmentation projects to feed Usile, Matimba, and the mines that are going to operate in the area. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
They are trying to pipe water for Usile, Matimba, and the mines, not the people. So this is the kind of development that is wrong. Because the people don't have water, they don't care about them. But if it's industry, overnight, they want to have water. So that's the whole thing about this technology. That even if they bring water, that water will not be consumed by people. So normally, so what we do is support people. So we will provide training. When we do research, we don't send like your university students. So we take ordinary community people, then we use 1 or 2 researchers, then they work as a team to do research. And this is solely because we've got a strong belief that as much as we can bring all your equipment, local people know better. They can tell you about the local governments much better than just the ones of research. They live there, they feel this on a daily basis, and they understand what works for them better than someone who comes in and out for such a process. And then I think in terms of, I think I'll mention it first. In terms of our program, the plan for today is for us to visit Kendal Power Station. So it's that
The Kendal Power Station.
How many power stations are using supercritical technology in South Africa?
I'll be frank with you, it doesn't exist. So there are 2 power stations that are said to be using the latest technology or supercritical technology. It's Kusile and Midopi. But what we are getting out of these 2 power stations is that their emissions are still high, but you have to give something in order to reduce those emissions. One, you have to use more water, you're creating more ash, and that ash cannot be contained. So what do they mean when they say supercritical technology? But what we need to consider, just the basic stuff, leave the technology out. The most important part is any form of coal combustion. For as long as you burn it, it will have smoke. That's where the problem starts. Because it's the smoke that we need to deal with. So they can tell you about technology there, technology this, it's not going to work. But secondly, we need to be very clear. How much are we prepared to spend to give other people a disadvantage? Because that smoke affects people's health. It takes away the limited water resources they have for that plant. Is that what we want? The land takes away the land. Is that what we're prepared to give away in order for a few individuals to benefit? So we have to be clear about what is it that they say will be the benefits and what is it that we will lose. Even before we talk about the technology itself, the technology does not exist. Ask South Africa, they know better. Like I said earlier, we've just spent more than 450 billion, and those two plants right now are nowhere near completion. Nowhere near completion. I think Usila will take another 5 years before it's completed, and it will need something like 165 billion. Medupi will take another 2 to 3 years, apparently, but it will also need something like 90 to 100 billion before completion. So we need to be clear, one, how much is the country prepared to spend? Who's going to be paying for that? Because if that electricity comes to you, you will pay for it. Who's going to pay for your health if you get sick? How are you going to get access to water if we take the limited water we have and use it to burn coal? Are you prepared to give away your land? So these are the first basic things we need to consider. Yes. Let alone the technology. They will talk about technology because they are selling a product. They've got this machinery, they've got this technology, it's not working. So how do I sell my technology from a business perspective? How do I ensure that people use this technology? So I need to tell you all the positive stuff about it. If you ask the guys, can it eliminate emissions? The answer will be here, no. It will reduce. You can reduce in South Africa because you've got. What is it that you are reducing? Because you don't have a coal-fired power plant. Why reduce emissions that don't exist? So I think this is where we need to start. You don't have all of these emissions we're facing on a daily basis. If they build a plant, they cannot tell us about the reducing emissions because we don't have them. We want to retain our environment as cleanly as it is. That's the most important part we need to think about. What is it that we want? And if we want energy, don't we have other sources of energy that we could use? So I think this is for me the critical questions we need to think about.
So it's just a weapon they're using to make the community agree with them, but there is no supercritical technology.
And by the way, that narrative is gone because the corporate realized that community are fully aware of the technology. Now they came with another narrative, ultra supercritical, and that is what now we are, broadcasting on the ground.
So I think, guys, maybe what we need to understand is where this comes from.
Yeah.
We've had for a very long time states, presidents, governments denying that climate change exists. And then with a lot of community mobilization work done by NGOs, slowly they began to accept that we need to deal with emissions. But we also have different countries introducing air quality legislation. Then some of the countries decided to say, how can we improve the current technology to deal with these emissions? Now, they started planning to say, do this technology like your supercritical, you've got your fluidized bed system, it also forms part of the supercritical technology. And the intentions for them to say, can use this technology, and then this technology will reduce the emissions as compared to what, for instance, countries like South Africa are using. So it will reduce that. But maybe we need to ask ourselves, if countries like China, India, Japan are using that technology, why are their emissions high? Now they're saying we need to build some of the plants to reduce emissions. But now, if you didn't have those emissions, that's one aspect of it also. You didn't have a coal plant in your area. Then overnight, a coal plant comes into your area. You're not reducing. anything that comes out of the plant is too much rain because we never had it before.
Yeah.
So if you look into how much South Africa is contributing in terms of greenhouse gases in Africa, we're number one. We are number one because most of the coal plants are here. We've got the petrochemical plants, your Sasol, your Natref in Durban, they are based in South Africa. So we are number one in terms of greenhouse gases. What is your position as a country in terms of that? Now, in order for you guys to address development, do you want to kill people, destroy your land, and then later say, now we need to think about climate change, we need to close this power station? So we need to understand how we want to develop as a country. It's not just about saving your area, it's not just about saving Lamu, but we need to think as a country as a whole. Are we going to allow our country to destroy itself before we say this is the kind of development we need? I think that's for me the important part. What direction we want to take. So I'll tell you something that is interesting, and this is at the center of all economies. In South Africa, we have what we call the mineral energy complex. That's kind of what guided our economic growth system. So basically, the mineral energy complex said we've got enough mineral resources in this country. So what we need to do is to extract them and then use the coal to produce cheap energy. Not just energy, cheap energy, and then that energy will be supplied to industry. And there is the word base load in this regard. That energy will be supplied to the base load, and then once industries have enough energy, security of supply, and then they can create jobs. But the reality is it's not happening. It's failing. That's why South Africa is getting a high rate of unemployment. Some of the people will tell you, yeah, I live next to a power station, but I'm not working. And it's almost like 40, 50. He's been living there his entire life. He's never worked in a power station, but it's just next by. So that is the system they want to impose in other countries. So for instance, in Botswana, I don't know if you follow the story of Botswana. Now they want to dig more coal in Botswana to build more power stations. We've got one right now, Marwin, but they need more on top of that. And Botswana is it's like semi-desert. It's dry. So if they put in another coal plant, that means the limited water people have will have to be given to the power. So you lose something. The question is, are you prepared to lose that? For instance, if we talk about land, once that land is being occupied by a power station, I can guarantee you will never be in a position to use that land again. So is that what you are prepared to give away because of one plant? And is that plant going to supply energy to people? Or is that energy meant for industries? Because it's industries that complain about security of supply. Ordinary people, we make do with what we have. That's the reality of the situation. We make do with what we have. That's why we have this energy mix at the household level. We use gas, we use wood. I mean, we have that mix to supplement, even if we have that mix to supplement our energy mix at the household level. So the question is, if they build a power station, who's going to get the energy? What is their argument? Who's going to supply it? Who
I
is
say
going to
that
supply it?
the energy that will be generated from the coal plant to be implemented in Lamu will support you on the port. You see? Now the base load.
Did they say the people?
No.
No, the port.
And then now they say that also you guys will benefit from that, but the reality is the energy generated will be, evacuated from Lamu to Nakuru, or Nakuru, where the grid is, and then now distributed, across, the nation.
So go for that in a few minutes. So that's why I'm asking this question, because they will tell you, I never said so, but I said you're not going to get anything, right? They want to grow the port, remember that's part of the plan.
Yeah.
They want to grow the port. That port is still going to displace people. That port is going to affect the fisher folk.
True. We have already felt that impact.
Then on top of that, they take more land to supply energy to the port. It's still going to get more people to be displaced. And after displacement, we will not have access to electricity. Okay.
I was also thinking about also understanding the geopolitics or the value chain of that coal that is going to be exported to Kenya, so that it can be used for the coal plant. I think as communities that are also working in solidarity, we also have to consider the impacts of that coal on other communities where it is being mined. We cannot just ignore the impacts, say, of coal mining in South Africa and Zimbabwe, which are going to supply the Kenya coal, and then we say, it's not our land that is being devastated, it's in Zimbabwe, it's in South Africa, and then we ignore that. I think we also have to work together to say, as long as this production is dirty in other locations in Africa, we're not going to allow dirty energy in our country. So I think we have also to have that understanding of the value chain of where that coal is coming from, the impact it has on those localities.
And also,
So that's why the meeting we're attending on Friday was supposed to be held on the 30th. I had to insist that it be brought closer, because we have all the different regions, so that we could find some more structure on how we work exactly.
Yes.
Rather than just saying, oh no, it's just climate change. We need to look into the value chain. For instance, from the 10th of November, I'm meeting some guys from Sweden. So part of our campaign is to say, what role do the Swedish government or Swedish companies play in human rights violations, environmental destruction, and how do we work with our Swedish counterparts to hold these guys accountable? So that's in a nutshell, the reason why I'm bringing the guys to South Africa, so that they could understand all Swedish investors that are operating here and how we work with them to make sure that we put pressure on the companies and the government to comply. Exactly. We can't continue doing this. But yeah, I think it's part of the discussion. That's why I want us to make sure that we put more structure.
and by the way,
I want to ask how many coal power plant stations do you have in South Africa? And another one is if you have an authority to enforce on rehabilitation after coal mining land.
Okay, we've got I think about 15 power stations.
15.
Coal, because we have one nuclear, one hydro, and gas. But we've got 15 coal plants, and within this area we've got 12 of them. Now, in terms of legislation, we've got legislation governing mining, which we refer to as the Mineral Resources and Petroleum Act, or MPIA. Within that act, it is compulsory for mines to rehabilitate the land and the mines cannot get the closure certificate without doing proper rehabilitation. That's what the head says. The reality of the situation is the department which has the powers to oversee that's been done. Either it doesn't have the capacity or it doesn't have the will to do that. Because we've seen a lot of mines being abandoned or not properly closed. So there are a lot of unrehabilitated mines, current and past. Then in terms of plants, like your energy plants and other industries, we've got okay, it was then into energy because right now they are amalgamated, so it's one department. But for like a coal power station, they would need to draft a decommissioning plan and do like thorough public consultation with all stakeholders. And then once that decommissioning plan has been approved, then we need to start decommissioning. But in the current context, again, so this is what the law says: you need to prepare decommissioning plan before you close the power plant. In the current situation, they are avoiding that. So there are two ways that Eskom or the government are currently using. They say it's either they mothball or they put a unit into coal reserve. Basically, it's something that's not working. We're closing this unit. So they are telling us we're closing this unit. They're telling us we mothball or we put the unit into coal reserve. Which is something like, okay, what do you mean by coal reserve? What do you mean by mothball? But basically, they're using these words intentionally to avoid decommissioning. Because decommissioning speaks to how are you going to do your hair, how are you going to treat your water, structure, what are you going to do about it. It talks about what happens to employees, how you're going to lay them off. And except for that, if you close it today, they still need to a process, maybe another 5 years, doing decommissioning. What happens? Who's responsible for what during that phase? So yeah, there are laws, but it's not working. Now, we have I'll try to look into some of the documents what's here, but we have done different reviews to see what exactly is happening, and basically just tells us one, government doesn't have the capacity to deal with it. Secondly, some of these processes are intentionally failing. So there's a failure in terms of our governance system, and it's intentionally being done because people listen more to industries rather than residents. But also it's also about how government is failing to enforce their own legislation. So I think it's very important that we know that. So I think early this year, they might close the window for dust. So Lorraine, if you could see that there are two mining here. So all these trucks bringing coal and then they come back to the
plant.
Yeah, this is the plant.
They mine and process.
So there's a mine nearby, but it's not the same mine. They don't mine here, they just process.
Yeah.
There's a new mine.
See the heaps of coal dust.
Yeah. But if you look into it, when they were dumping it,
Yeah.
you could tell that it was wet. If you look at it.
Yeah. So it's like they mine here, they transport the coal via conveyor belt, they crush.
No.
then trucks carries.
Here it's only trucks. There's no conveyor belt that's transporting coal here.
Yeah, it's very extensive. Very, very extensive.
So this is the portion that's being mined.
Yeah. So this is, inactive, portion. The other side is active. It is an inactive, mine. The other one is active mine. So they process it there, then they haul, they haul to the plant. Yeah. Yeah.
So Lorraine, if you see the dams, now the difference between the plant and the mine. So this is your topsoil in your rock. That's what they should use. Because that's the first waste they take out.
Yeah,
I think it depends on the seams.
Beneath, yeah.
They've got different seams.
What's that?
Seams, the level of thickness. So this is gonna get it very close. That's also complicated.
Safety at work begins here. Where? Here. See the boilers. So
Yeah, this is Dover.
in the boilers there are turbines which are driven by steam
Yeah.
to generate electricity.
Yeah.
So this side is where the chimneys are, is where they combust.
Yeah.
Yeah, they coal. To generate electricity. So they combusting, in between,
Tuko katika maeneo ya South Africa katika Kendal power. Tuko katika bomba la Maboza ya babu yake majani na majani, lakini cha kusikitisha ni kwamba what happened here, as you see the coal plant is very near. Hii coal plant iko karibu sana. Yale ambayo yamefanyika katika boma hii ndio yale ambayo yatafanyika katika maeneo ya Kwasasi. Kwa wale ambao watakuwa wako na mashamba zao watakosa kulima. Visima ambavyo Maboza na familia yake wameweza kuchimba katika maeneo haya sasa hawawezi kutumia maji, wanategemea serikali, na utakuta kwamba town ambayo maji inatoka ni mbali sana na hapa. Kwa hivyo maji imekuwa tabu, ukulima hakuna, no dispensary around, na wamelazimika, ni lazima waishi hapa kwa sababu hakuna njia mbadala. Hawawezi kwenda kuishi katika sehemu zingine kwa sababu hizi ni sehemu ambazo walikuwa wakiishi na mababu zao tangu hapo jadi. So kile ambacho kimefanyika hapa ndicho kile ambacho kwamba kitakuja kufanyika katika maeneo ya Kwasasi, Lamu, mahali ambapo AmuPower wanataka kuwezeka mradi kama huu. Na kulingana na Maboza anasema kwamba ile technique ambayo AmuPower anasema watakutumia, the supercritical technique is not existing. Hilo ni jina tu ambalo wanatumia ili waweze kupata hizo sehemu na kufanya uharibifu, lakini hiyo critical hakuna kabisa. Kwa hivyo lazima tukae macho.
This is Gusile Power Station. Now Gusile. Yeah, Gusile. Like
Gusile.
Yeah. So the technology that will be used here is what do they call it?
Supercritical.
Trisulfur. So the boilers from construction, they will build the boilers with fit in I would say abatement technology to reduce sulfur.
So it's like they will put sulfur esters.
Yeah. So for Kusile, they're not going to use a lot of water as compared to Midupi.
Kendal.
No, Midupi. Kendal is an old plant, so in terms of technology, you cannot compare Kusile and Kendal. So in terms of the postponements I was talking about,
Yeah.
out of all the Eskom power stations, this is the only plant they haven't applied for postponement. Okay, we're approaching security gates.
So they're using supercritical technology.
Majina yangu kamili ni Najma Jafar, niko South Africa katika maeneo ya Coal kama mnayoyaona, na huku side zingine kuna mambo na mining. Cha kusikitisha ni kuwa mzee wa kiwanja hichi ama eneo hili wako hapa karibu kuanzia 2008 hadi sasa, na hakuna anyone ambao amepatiwa kazi kufanya hapa. Kwa hivyo watu wa Lamu inafaa tukue makini, tujue, tusidanganywe kuwa ikifunguliwa hiyo coal tutapata kazi hapo ndani. Hakuna kazi kama hiyo. Wao paka sasa hivi wanateseka, hawana anything, hawana hata kipatio chochote cha kutafuta chakula.
I saw a truck somewhere.
Simekubali kwa kioo.
Place of coal. So back then,
Emalashini, can we give the spelling?
EM
Yes.
AL
S.
AHLENI. Like it's written in the Emalasheni Hospital. Emalasheni means a place of coal.
Okay. Graveyard. Tuchukue hapa, tuchukue hapa. Tuchukue hii.
I think military, right?
No, it's ordinary people.
Only normal people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like traditional youth. This is like your old grave.
Sometimes pia usienda kuangalia kuna kitu kimoja atakojua kufanya kitu usiegeze chumvi. Utakuja unampatia mtu lupo anaweza kukugonga. Anaweza kuja hapa kama hata sio watu wanakufana kwa
Propaganda muhimu.
Si tegemea namna hiyo. Kama ile TB hospital.
clip wetu ya kwanza tunayo.
Does anyone know the history of hostels in South Africa? History of hostels? No. This used to be a hostel.
A hostel.
Yeah. So remember yesterday I said we had specific areas in the country that were used as labor centers. Now, when they take male workers, because females were not allowed to come and work in the industries, they would bring them here and put them in a hostel. So this is like, it used to be a residence for single males, and you were not allowed to bring your family or your girlfriend into this space. So recently they've turned them into family units, but this is how all hostels all over the country used to look like. So all of those people who used to work in these industries would be forced to live here. So I'm coming in here intentionally to say, look at where black people used to live and how close that is to the plant
factories.
Yeah. So all that smell, all that dust that comes from all these factories will affect
these people here.
Exactly.
Very bad. So sad. Washike wa wazungu wa wachache wafanye kazi kwanza fresh. Angalia, mwangazi kutoka mautoka. Ha? Kisha wamekiwa mikuneni. No. Kisha ndani.
The housing becomes now slightly different. So this is more of your informal settlement. So even today, people still move from their rural areas and come into the urban centers for employment. So if they can't afford to pay, then they create this place, because normally most of the time you don't pay, and then if they are lucky and get an opportunity to settle more than 6 months without being moved, then the municipality is kind of forced to provide them with services like water and sanitation and electricity.
Sasa hii tupate hewa safi.
We can close. I can see Isaac closing we can close the windows, guys. I also don't want to get a headache. You are going to find these industries in poor black communities.
Lazima wavuane hapa. Lazima wavuane. Lakini wao black ye. Wao hata ya hiyo. Mwende Mugabe atakofa hao hivi.
Ubika Afrika venda.
Wallahi lazima. This is too much. This is too
Unanuka.
The scent is very strong by the way.
Yeah.
Very
We can
strong.
even demonstrate like right now.
Already.
Seriously.
We can even demonstrate right now.
Huh? Right now?
This is unfair. Yeah, you can just go ask who is the
The burden and
Who's the
benefit
boss
must
here?
be equally shared. So if it is bad scent or let's say strong scent, even the white mice, experience.
So part of the trick when we are fighting around air quality issues,
Yeah.
so say in an area like this, we need to understand who's emitting what, so that even when we do our own monitoring, we should be in a position to pinpoint the sources.
Yeah.
But if we don't know who's emitting what, it becomes difficult for us to pinpoint the exact sources.
Naosha kusuana kwa harufu.
picha ya harufu ule. Ule picha. Vanadium, Banchem, Vanadium.
So that plant you're talking about, Vanchem, was also closed. So they are reopening it because they have to provide high-fat steel with the vanadium. So they also have their own chain. They mine manganese and vanadium, and then they bring it to Vanchem for processing. Then they have to supply high-fat steel. So they also have their own chain. How many of us have headaches? All of us. Sorry guys, but I'm saying that's good. So practically this is one of the things people are going to be experiencing when they live next to a coal plant.
Yeah.
And mind you, they are going to experience this on a daily basis, not just a once-off thing, on a daily basis.
True.
Coal plants. It's more than 40 years now. And one of the things they were doing back then was that their ash disposal facility, or ADF, when they built it, they didn't put lining to prevent seepage. So instead of putting lining, they would put a couple of monitors around the ADF to monitor if there's any form of contamination. But only them know about those results. We don't have access to those results unless we ask for them.
This information from such,
Well, yeah,
company. You have access to Information Act.
Yeah, we do have what we call.
And how responsive institutions are, both public and private.
Well, sometimes they just delay.
Yeah.
I think we've taken 1 or 2 instances to court
Yeah.
because of the delay. But sometimes they'll just delay you, and then ultimately they will give you the information.
And what was the outcome of the case you presented to court regarding the access to information?
No, we'll be requesting the documents.
Yeah. And the court, provided you on behalf of the
public interest. You don't have to mention specific anything that you think might violate your rights or is in the public interest. You are allowed information to that. So ESCOM is one of the public entities. So by law, any public entity is supposed to make that information public.
So does that provide immunity to private, or private are subjected, to similar treatment?
It's a similar treatment. You write them a letter, and then if they need you to use the act, then you can use the act, but it's the same.
And drilled, gas, and then they came to realize that the quantity of gas is low and cannot support commercial.
We need
So
those numbers.
decommissioning now, they decided to leave the ponds, the pits, the mud pit.
Look at these numbers, the skins. Because of this.
Because of coal dust.
Shit.
And as we are eating, meat from, so we must check ourselves prior to, living.
Prior to right.
Wow, don't worry, we are not eating this meat.
I don't want to kill. Ready? I'm a fish.
Then the skin is.
So over there, it's an underground mine on our far
They
right.
don't have far. You can even spot, the skin directly.
On our right hand side. So all this area, the other side, it's a mine. But in that process, the only family that said we're not moving until we get proper compensation, it's this family over here.
I
That's
think
why
they made
they're
a
still
very
here.
clear position.
Yeah.
Even now, they're trying to move them. These guys are saying
No,
no.
because they've seen,
We need to
the
properly
challenges.
negotiate the compensation. Then only then can we agree to move. But this guy has also warned the mine, because when they came in, he also went for a medical report to say, this is the condition of my family before your operations. So if anything happens, I will sue you, because it's because of your impact. He kept copies of the medical report, but he also provided the mine with those copies to say, you need to have this. So this is the only guy who didn't move. So the other guys were moved because they just agreed to anything. So when they say they used to live in a farm, this whole huge area to our right, that's where they used to live. More community involvement in all of this. Even when we talk about renewables, we don't just say we want renewables, because we could still do the same thing. We could get most of those big industries from Europe coming here to invest in renewables, but still community people don't have ownership. So we've seen it happening in the Northern Cape. They say community people have ownership, but people don't even know what's happening. We don't want a process like that. So in terms of our just transition is to say, how do we also address ownership such that when we produce energy, it's to address our own energy needs. If we grow food, that food should be about addressing our food needs rather than growing food for the market. And okay, there are a couple of reports that are in this book, but the purpose of this book, guys, basically I think this was my idea. We have so many reports, we have so many literature around climate change, around corporate accountability, but I'm going back to that way. We were not structured in a way that my report should complement your report, and we never put a document wherein we put in all these reports so that people could not just read the book, they should use it as a resource. So when I launched this book, we had all the NGOs, different NGOs, to say, come on board, let's do this. So all of these guys who are mentioned here are the ones who said, this is what I want in the process. We can put this online, we can put that, so that we could use this as a resource. So somebody doesn't have to go through all these books, you can just go online and then get all the reports, get referrals, get newspaper articles, with all those referrals in this one book. So it's more like your research kit to say, how do I use it to get different information? So all the information will be asking about health, water, it's all in here. Normally, ordinary people will pay for that. So for instance, in the South African context, in terms of our budget, we spend a lot of money on public health. And then those who can afford private, they spend money for their private health care. Now, I'm not going to really quote other people. My 10-year-old, he's 12 now, about 8 years ago, he was suffering from asthma. So I had to move from where I live, because we had a couple of mines very close by, mine, landfill, and that stuff. So I had to move from that area to a different area. But by the time I was moving, I had to finance my own relocation, but I had to pay for medication. And at that time, we were compelled at least to visit the doctor every month. So you'll pay 500 for consultation, then you still have to spend extra money for medication. Now, I'm saying today I'm fortunate because I'm employed. At that time I was not really working. I had to make ends meet. So at some point in time I will go for like 2-3 sessions without enough money to pay the doctor. So that's what we talk about when we say those costs are being externalized. Ordinary people, the one who are not benefiting the process, bear all those costs. Then the other E we're talking about is around exclusion. So when these things happen, people are excluded from the decision-making process. It's only a few elites that take the decision on behalf of everyone. So the just transition also looks into why people are being excluded, right? Then the last E is enclosure.
So all those resources are enclosed, right, to a few people. There's a circle, we know, multinational corporations, they get access. You can't use the resources as you want to, you know. So that's the importance of a just transition, is to say, we've got this system where people were not included. I mean, South Africa is a democracy, right? But is a democracy. Government consults with business. Our public consultation is like more like a tick box exercise. Sign the attendance register, we've consulted, that's it. Nothing more than that.
Seriously?
Seriously. That's all.